managed to actually do all right for myself. I now own a home, which is worth quite a bit, and I'm doing okay. But throughout my life, I've seen that the people who are going to get all the inheritance have had all the advantages already in life. So with the private school argument, with the social contacts, when you're getting jobs, that sort of stuff, the contacts, that sort of thing. So and just going back to when you sort of mentioned about it's a case of luck, and the luck keeps rolling, and inheritance is the big thing that keeps that luck rolling generation after generation for the same people.
What would you do, Gary? Would you just tax it 100%? You say you could enjoy what you've earned in your life?
I would have a threshold of maybe, I don't know, 50,000 per child, and then beyond that, 100%.
And what do you say to this argument that actually what motivates people to work, to get on and do well, to aspire, is giving their children more opportunities than they had, and that if you did have a threshold as low as, say, 50,000, then people simply wouldn't have the incentive to do that? What would you say to people who make that argument?
Well, that's nonsense, because if you didn't have inheritance, you'd have to work hard to get that life for yourself. Inheritance is the reason why you might not have to do that in the first place.
And will you, I don't know if you've got kids, Gary, but will you have something to pass down to them?
Yeah, I do. I have two small boys, and yeah, I mean, I suppose there will be something there, but
do you think when it comes to it, you will resent the fact that they might be taxed quite a lot of money on it?
No, not really.
Do you think they will?
I hope that by then I'll have invested in them enough, and I will work hard to give them the start in life that hopefully by that point they won't need anything, and luckily I don't need anything from my parents when they die, and the only thing I'll inherit is a bill for their funeral. I know that's pretty macabre, but
no, it's the reality that you and many, many others in this country are facing. That is simply the fact. Most people do not have Daniel Craig's levels of wealth. A lot of people don't have any wealth to pass down. That's the context of this debate.
Absolutely. And then I heard on the road in the private school debate saying, well, my children simply work harder because they're paying the 40 grand. And it's like, yeah, it's laughable. It's like anybody with wealth is in a bubble because they inherited wealth. They went to a private school. The next generation does. And I don't think they realise that it's nothing to do with how hard you work. I'm pretty sure coal miners worked pretty hard.
Is there not a part of you, Gary, that, you know, having not inherited anything, having worked hard for yourself and done well for yourself, that does want your kids to inherit everything that you've got now?
No, not at all. No, I mean, I haven't thought out the argument fully, because there would be a situation that if something was to happen to me now and my children weren't provided for as young children, I think there's something to be said there that I'd like them to have something. But once they're adults,
once they've got the ability to make their own way and you've given them the start that you talked about. Interesting, Gary. I wonder if many people would agree with you. I suspect a lot of people saying, a lot of text saying no, that it is your right as a parent to decide what you give. Gary says he doesn't mind as long as he's given his children the best start he can when he's alive. And why do they need to inherit anything once he's gone? He didn't. He's done okay. I have to say, on a personal level, I can't bear the idea, I don't have kids at the moment, if I did, of me working hard, earning and trying to save and give them have something to hand over, and a taxman coming and taking quite a lot of it. I can't bear it. But on the other hand, when you look at the consequences as a country of that attitude, which I fully understand because I suspect I would feel it too, they're pretty stark. You have people who have inherited great wealth because they got lucky, and we have to be clear, this is luck. And you have people like Gary who have inherited nothing, done well for themselves, but with none of the start in life that other people have had. And I think on a wider level, it does become a bit difficult. It does become a bit difficult to justify at least having zero tax. Yes, we can quibble and argue about where it is set, then it does become a bit tricky, because you do have to accept that you'd effectively have a two-tier society. You have someone who perhaps earns the same wage as someone else, but they can't afford to buy their home. Someone else has inherited enough for a deposit, they buy their home, and that just gets passed down and passed down. And it is largely about property. It's about property, and it's about where you live in the country, because if your grandparents or your great-grandparents were lucky enough to buy a house in London, then chances are you are doing quite a lot better than your cousin or your friend in a different part of the country, even if their parents or grandparents has had a chance to buy a house, because simply you got lucky. They bought it in the right place for you, because house prices have gone through the roof. Where are you on this? Daniel Craig, talking about big sums of money, says it's distasteful to pass it down. Is it too easy for Daniel Craig to say that when he's worth £120 million? Is it very different when we're talking about smaller figures? Even if he passed down 1%, you're looking at his kids still becoming, well, if there's one of them, a millionaire, 1.2 million. That is money that most people don't have. Where are you? 84850 is the number to text. More of this coming up. Lots of you calling in on this. I'm going to get to your calls in just a moment. Let's get some news headlines first at 6:30. Tim Humphrey.
Boris Johnson will meet G7 leaders on Tuesday to discuss the situation in Afghanistan, with US President Joe Biden dialing in virtually. A NATO official says 20 people have died in the last 7 days in and around Kabul airport as Western countries race to fly people out. Tony Blair's called the US decision to withdraw from the country imbecilic. He says the move is tragic and dangerous. Thousands of adults who tested positive for COVID-19 in the UK are being invited to take part in an antibody surveillance program. Experts hope it will help them find out how much natural protection people have after getting the virus. And the weather, mostly dry with variable amounts of cloud and clear intervals tonight, turning misty with some fog, although cloud in places, a low of 11.
This is LBC. From entrepreneurs and business owners to one-man bands and big dreamers, Sage celebrates all those who are bossing it. Like Scott Brenman, he started Postcard Colour Club during lockdown, bringing calm, colour and connection to people of all ages. Nailing payroll, smashing invoices and winning at tax returns, Sage helps you boss it. Your small business could be on the radio, plus you could win a new laptop, smartphone and a year's subscription to Sage Accounting. Enter now at lbc.co.uk.
Did you like it, Grandma?
Wonderful, darling. I'd love to hear another one.
Okay.
Oh, the wonderful sounds of everyday life. Hear them all again with Specsavers' advanced range of hearing aids for different lifestyles, hearing loss and budgets. So Specsavers Hearing.
Another one?
Why not? Philip Schofield here. Imagine you're buying a car. You've negotiated a deal to trade in your old one and you're about to sign on the dotted line. But wait a minute. Easy, Tiger. Before you agree, it's worth remembering that buying without part exchanging could get you a bigger discount on your next car. So why not check out WeBuyAnyCar.com? Good boy. To find out how much your car's worth in 60 seconds, enter your reg number now at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Admin fee may apply. For more information, see WeBuyAnyCar.com/info.
Booking a hotel is never easy. Am I getting the best price? Will it look anything like the pictures? Well, with Premier Inn, you don't have to worry about any of that. Because with us, you know exactly what you're getting. A great night's sleep, over 800 easy-to-find locations, a choice of great value, flexible rates, and as much brekkie as you can handle. So enjoy a weekend break without breaking the bank. Premier Inn. Rest easy. Only available to book at PremierInn.com.
This summer, get a trusted 5-year British Gas warranty when you buy a new boiler. So if yours is making even more noise than your neighbour's yappy dog, now's a good time to do something about it. The boiler, that is, not the dog. Get a new energy-efficient boiler from British Gas. Spread the cost interest-free over 3 years and get £200 off when you book a quote by the 31st of August. Search British Gas New Boiler. Conditions apply. British Gas New Heating Limited is a credit broker and uses a panel of lenders.
This is your 9:23 train to life out there. Calling at Mate's Night Out, Romantic Bistro and Lovely Country Walk. For connecting services to Tea with Granny, passengers are advised to change at Trendy Museum. Journeys beyond four walls again? Welcome back to our trains again. Nothing reconnects us to the people, places and things we love like rail.
do to your kids, because your kids perhaps are not doing so well. They've got a job, but it's not that well paid, and their grades aren't all that good. Really? Should you be taxed on that? Easy for Daniel Craig to say. What about you? 0345 60 60 973. I'm going to get to your calls on this in just a moment. First, I want to speak to William Denslow, LBC's New York correspondent, because we've seen in the last 24 hours some pretty horrendous flooding in New York as a result of Hurricane Henry. William, just bring us up to speed on the situation in New York now. You're in Brooklyn. What's the situation like there?
Well, pretty heavy flooding is absolutely right. I think it's the state of just how much rain has fallen here in the borough, or maybe in New York City alone. As of 2 a.m., the early hours of Sunday morning, 6 inches of rain had fallen in Brooklyn alone, in New Manhattan's Central Park between the hours of 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. last night. Close to 2 inches of rain fell in that hour. That meant that was the wettest hour on record in the history of New York City. Since then, rain has continued relentlessly. Tropical storm Henri has now made landfall near Rhode Island. Westerly Rhode Island brings sustained winds of 60 miles an hour, wind gusts of 75 miles an hour. There is huge concern when it comes to storm surges. Some warning that we could see storm surges bringing 3 to 5 feet of water above normal levels in the coming hours. That is why the message from officials is people to stay home as much as they possibly can, to not only keep themselves safe, but to keep first responders safe as well.
William, thank you for that update from Brooklyn, New York, on the Hurricane Henry floods that have hit that city. Let's get back to the issue of inheritance. Tara texts, what about parents of disabled children? I work hard to provide for their future beyond when I'm gone. Not everyone can work harder. Good point, isn't it? Good point from Tara there. Not everyone can be confident that actually they've done everything they can to set their children up for when they've gone, because perhaps they don't have the ability to work, perhaps they don't have the ability to earn, perhaps they will be reliant on inheritance. Not the case for everyone, but there will be people in that situation. Kim, though, says, hi Ben, I've already paid tax on my earnings. Why should I be double taxed? And Dan makes a really important point, and I suspect there are others in Dan's position. Dan says, Ben, coming from a working class background, this conversation feels very alien to me. Death in my community is usually associated with debt, not profit. When someone dies, it's usually a scramble for family to get together funds for a coffin, a plot, cars, etc. Then you might also be left with costs around cleaning out their belongings or clearing debt that they've left behind. This conversation is exclusive in itself. That's Dan in London. Absolutely a very important perspective there. Lots of people, as I've said throughout this conversation, don't have anything to pass on at all. What does that mean for the people who do? Is it wrong that those who do have the right to do so without most of it being taxed? Should more of it be taxed? Should all of it be taxed? Or, as some have suggested, should none of it be taxed? And would you say to people like Dan, who don't have the luxury, don't have the privilege to be in this position, I'm sorry mate, but tough luck? Is that the way of the world? I'm not quite sure that's what we should be saying. I certainly don't think we should have no tax, but I'm very much open to be influenced as to exactly where it should be. Zoran's in Virginia Water. Zoran, what do you make of this evening?
Zoltan,
how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Just 2 quick bullet points, really. The unbelievable comment that the guy from up north said about all he's going to inherit is the funeral bill. He seems to forget about all the nappies that his mother had to change when he was a baby. So that's probably a fair kind of trade-off.
How do you mean, Zoltan? Because he's just stating facts. He's not going to inherit anything. That's a fact.
Exactly. Yeah, but the thing is, to make a comment that all you're going to inherit, you know, it's that.
But that's, okay. I mean, he meant in terms of wealth. I'm sure he wasn't casting aspersions on his parents, but go on.
And he's got a couple of quid in the house, and you know, he's doing all right. That's down to good parenting. So that's another plus for him. As for the rich people, they pay a lot of tax, huge amount of tax, unbelievable amount of tax. They normally employ a few people, got businesses, so it all filters down, you know. So, you know, you think when they sell their house, they pay £200,000, £300,000, £400,000 just to the estate agent, thanks night, you know. So it's, you know, it's unbelievable numbers that you're talking about. So that's it really. That's my point.
But where are you on this suggestion? So you don't think they should be taxed anything on inheritance, or what's your argument on that?
No, I think if I earned 120 million, I would give the rest of it to my kids. You know, it's not
all of it.
You know, but what's distasteful of receiving 30 million for a film? Is that distasteful?
Well, he's not saying earning is distasteful. He's saying that what's giving kids who haven't earned that money, let's be clear, they haven't done anything to earn that money. They haven't done the work. They're not the celebrity, they're not the actor, but they are going to get all the benefits through no work of their own. Meanwhile, someone else whose dad might work just as hard, but isn't a Hollywood actor, is a minor, to use the example that we were talking about before, their kids get nothing. That's what I suspect Daniel Craig is saying is distasteful.
No, not really. I think if you've earned that, no, just indulgence. You know, I mean, it's hard enough out there. I mean, at least leave, maybe not, do a lot for charity, but we'll just give it all away.
Do you think your kids would, how would they feel, Zoltan, if you said, I'm sorry guys, but actually, I'm giving it all to charity?
No, that'd be crazy. I mean, my father died. I sold his house in Hungary. I gave the money, 50 grand to my son. You know, I can't see the point of leaving everything and everyone fighting over it when you're dead. At least you can see them enjoying it when you're alive. That's crazy, really.
Fair enough. Zoltan in Virginia Water, they're crazy. Everyone should be able to give what they want to their children. Do you agree? Ross is in Lichfield in Staffordshire. How are you, Ross? What do you think of this? Where are you on this?
Well, I'm not as wealthy as Daniel Craig, I'll have you know.
Few of us are, Ross.
I didn't buy my first house until just before the pandemic at the age of just nearly 44, and it's the only thing that myself and my wife are going to have to leave our son, so I don't see that as distasteful. I think it would be distasteful not to. We could, I'm hoping to sort of pay over time, shorten the length of the mortgage by grafting, pay it off sooner, but myself and my wife could sell the house and move to Wales and move somewhere and buy a little caravan and enjoy the money, but I don't want him to struggle in the same way, because to me the biggest struggle nowadays is getting on the property ladder, and I want to leave some kind of legacy behind for him. If I had that kind of money like Daniel Craig, then I could understand him saying I'm not going to leave it all to them. I'm going to leave a good chunk, make sure they're set up for life, but I don't see it as distasteful. In fact, Sultan touched on something. I actually see it as distasteful when you see people getting £30 million starring in a movie.
So it's the earning that's distasteful rather than. But isn't that Ross an argument, if you think that's distasteful, to make sure that wealth doesn't then get passed to someone? At least Daniel Craig has got the talent. At least he's done the work to earn that. His kids have done nothing to earn it. That isn't an argument to tax it more.
But they're his kids. The only thing I would add to it is I do worry that kids in general, it could have a negative effect if they are aware that they're going to inherit, whether it's someone like myself. I'm not wealthy, but my lad knows that one day the house is going to be his, or whether it's Daniel Craig or someone rich whose kids think, oh well, I'm going to have millions in the future, I don't need to sort of work too hard. Maybe there is an argument there that the fact that they're aware that one day I'm going to be sorted for life, or one day I'm going to have a house for free, maybe they take the foot off the pedal a bit, which is a concern. But at the end of the day, I've worked. What does worry me though, Ben, is I'm not totally clued up on the tax system. I heard 40% being bandied around. So my property at the moment is worth about 170,000.
Yeah, so you'd be below the threshold, Ross. It's above it. That's 350,000. You get taxed 40%. It's not on anything. It's not on every penny. So your whole property would fall below the threshold. So your kids would inherit that, and that's the idea. That's the system. That there is a threshold up to which people can give their children, their sons and daughters, whatever they want. But above that threshold, you get taxed on it, which to me seems fair, although there's a debate to be had about where the threshold is, I accept, and what the tax rate is. 40% is clearly high, And I think Ross has touched on a really important point there. This is all about money, isn't it? This is all about the size of the figure that you are going to pass down. It's one thing passing down a £170,000 house. That's not really to anyone's kids thinking, oh, I can afford to take it easy. It's quite another if you stand to inherit millions and millions and millions or a lovely London townhouse. Let's go to Sarah in Kensington. Sarah, where are you on this?
I disagree with the idea that because some people may not receive inheritance or might not get anything, that others should be taxed heavily. I'm not going to receive anything. I've worked extremely hard my whole life. So is my mum, my family. I won't have that extra stuff, but I wouldn't be critical of others having it.
Okay.
Well, instead of taxing people and being critical, maybe put in place schemes or something in place so that we can give those who don't have something an extra push. We shouldn't be critical because people have it. I don't think it's distasteful. I think it's that if you've worked incredibly hard your whole life, actually it's quite tasteful to give something to your children so they don't have to struggle like others have or should be pushed back. For example, like me, I'm gonna struggle. I'm gonna have a hard time maybe being a homeowner or having a start to life, but that doesn't mean others shouldn't have it or others should be sanctioned for it.
Sarah, do you buy this argument that is what people work for? That people work to be able to pass on what they've earned and what they've accumulated to their children? Do you think that's a big incentive for people to get on and do well?
Of course, but I can't lie and say that people that are extremely wealthy, their parents didn't have money. They likely had a push start, so it's just going to go down through generations and generations.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? And how do you tackle that if you don't have at least some sort of tax on inheritance?
But then it's almost like taxing people for something good. Having financial freedom, having the opportunity to have better education, although I'm not someone that's come from that, I think is a good thing. But what we should do is, if you are going to tax someone who hasn't got inheritance or doesn't have equity, let's give them affordable housing, affordable schemes to give them a push start so that one day they can do the same. But I don't agree with the idea that because you don't have it, others don't. Like I said, I'm not going to have it.
Yeah,
and I'm going to struggle.
And you're saying, Sarah, we level the playing field in other ways, not through inheritance. Lots of people will agree with that, I think. 0345 6060 973 is the number to let me know what you think. More on this in just a moment. The time now, 6:47.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Rachel Johnson.
Well, look who's back. It's that man again. Are you prepared to take any lectures in ethical foreign policy from Tony Blair?
Rachel Johnson on LBC.
There's nothing quite like a McDelivery in your own home. Or eating a quarter pounder with cheese in your PJs. There's nothing like tucking into a box set with a Big Mac. Or delving into your secret stash of dips. Then dunking a McNugget in 3 of your favourite sauces. Because what you do in your home is your business. There's nothing quite like a McDelivery. Order now on the My McDonald's app or via Uber Eats and Just Eat. At participating restaurants only, serving times and delivery fees apply. See the My McDonald's app or Uber Eats or Just Eat for full details.
At Honda, we believe in our ears. Listening can help solve some of life's biggest conundrums. For example, if a car breaks down and there's no one around to hear it, does it make a sound? The answer is yes. The new Jazz Hybrid will pinpoint your location automatically and send for help at the tap of a button. And with its personal assistant, you can find the answers to other conundrums like, where is a good vegan gluten-free pizza place with free parking? The new Honda Jazz. Hybrid and connected. Honda, the
choice of delivery starts from 5:30 a.m. till midnight.
There's an Ocado just for you.
Hey, what about me? Gotta leave for yoga at 7.
There's an Ocado just for you.
Geographical restrictions apply.